I broke my Mega Bass Mad Bull rod. I don't know how I broke. I walked in and it was broken. I think it got smashed by the garage door or something. Anyway, howdy, lads and lassies. Welcome back to the channel, y'all. Another exciting episode for you. Another gun video today. We're talking about something I get questioned on a lot. Like a lot. And that is my love for double single action pistols. Double action weapons. And I'm going to kind of take you through my history of double action weapons and sort of what got me into it and how I started falling in love with it and a couple guys that influenced me back then to just kind of fall in love with double action. So, brief history lesson in my shooting world, so to speak. I started off, the first gun I owned that I thought was really cool was a USP 40, an HK USP 40. I thought it was the raddest gun ever, but I didn't know how to shoot. And then I showed up to Ruhagi's shooting range one day, and I wanted to shoot one of these IPSC matches, one of these US Passe matches. And the squad I got squatted with back then was Jojo Vidanis, world like ninja, Taron Butler, maybe one of the greatest all-around shooters that's ever lived, ever. Barry Duke from Surefire, like 8-time world champion and Ironman champion and all this stuff, like one of the best three gunners, definitely the best 308 three gunner of all time. Mike Voigt, who might be a once-in-a-generational shooter and has trained every ninja on the planet, and he's passed away from cancer a few years ago, which was really sad, but he was a huge influence on me. Bevan Grams was in there from Grams Engineering, was in that squad, and this guy named Hawk, and Hawk was a steel challenge shooter, and Hawk was always kind of crippled, and he comes on a walker up to the line, and it was a classifier stage, the first stage we started off on, and I'd never seen, like, who are all these guys, like, none of them got tattoos and beards or nothing. Like, can these guys shoot? Like, they got weird looking guns and all this stuff. I'll never forget, like, Hawk putting the walker to the side and then the buzzer going off, and he's like, beep, what the hell? Never seen anything like it. So that was sort of the small crew that took me under their wing and got me into shooting, because right away I recognized, like, and I remember going back and talking to the guys I worked with at the time who were, a bunch of cool guys with a bunch of cool tabs, and being like, hey, we think we know how to shoot. We have no idea, and the guy just said, cool, keep learning from him. So I did, and I kept going. And I shot a 2011 for a very long time. It was kind of a piece together 2011. Like, Taron gave me a bunch of parts and a slide, and then Voigt did a trigger for me, and Jojo gave me a barrel back then. Bunch of guys loaned me a bunch of gear and kind of put this gun, this Freakazoid gun, together for me. And that was the single gun that I made A-class in back in the day, shooting limited class, and I also made A-class in limited 10. So that was really cool. Fast forward, I go away from competition shooting, doing what I was doing for work, traveling all over the place, and I started carrying kind of everywhere I went. I was getting a Glock 19, so I just really started shooting Glocks. And when I got back into shooting, I was just shooting a Glock 17. And it was fun, and okay, this is cool. And then when I started competing again, I went and saw Taron, and Taron gave me the gun that you've seen me shoot maybe a couple times on here, an Infinity 40 limited gun. And I got that gun from him. Crazy nice of him to gift me that gun. And I still have it, still shoot the heck out of it. More to come on that gun in the future. But after that, the job that I had taken after I got married, I kind of retired from my old job and took another job as a director of security. One of my guys had this gun. He had a Beretta Wilson Combat. It's a M9A1. That's all it says. And it is a double single action gun with a ambidextrous decocker. So here is that Beretta. And I took this gun, one of the first matches I ever shot with this gun was actually an IDPA match. And my friends were like, come on, shoot IDPA. I was like, ah. And I'm not a big fan of IDPA. It's cool. I had fun. You know, it's better than sitting at home. You know, I was a single guy back then, so I loved just going and competing whenever I could. And I was like, okay, I'll go shoot this stupid IDPA match. And I shot this gun. And I fell in love with this weapon. This was it still is to this day, one of my favorite weapons I've ever owned. And I love shooting this thing. And I will probably go back to shooting this. If I was going to go shoot production class today with any gun in my arsenal, this would be the gun that I would be shooting. But it is a Beretta M9A1 done up. It's one of Wilson Combat's very first run of Berettas that they did. The guy really wanted this AR-15 that I had, and I'm not very attached to my weapons. There's a couple pistols in here that I would never get rid of, but for the most part, especially my rifles, I kind of file through those. So the guy was really wanted one. He was stoked on it, so I gave him this rifle, and he traded me for this pistol. And I am so glad I took that trade because I fell in love with this gun. And this gun is a double action, is a hard pull of the trigger, and then the slide will rack, and then it goes to single action after that. And then it has the decocker, which is a biggie for me. So if I was moving bang, 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 and I want to move to the next section for safety, I can decock the weapon. There's no safeties to engage. There's no nothing. It's just pretty much that double action trigger pull. And it didn't take me long to train up on the double action. I know a lot of guys have problems with it, but back then I was definitely doing my underwear hours, you know, sitting there in front of the TV and just pointing the weapon out and getting that feeling that trigger pull. And the double action didn't bother me. And then the single action was like, ooh. And there's not a striker fire gun on the market today that can beat that single action that you're getting from these double single action guns. You just have to train through that first trigger pull there. And it really never bothered me. My draw is kind of slow. I'm not one of those like range ninjas that can sit there and do like, you know, I'm not one of those range ninjas that can do those 80, 70 draws. But you put me in a 30 round stage and I'll do okay. My draw is usually around like 1.2 if I'm really going fast, or like 1.3. But I can hit a 25-yard plate, double action at 1.3. And, you know, so it's one of those things that like, well, this is just how fast I draw. And now I just got to train up that double action pull, which I was able to do. This gun still to this day, I've tried a couple other Berettas customized by other well-known shooters out there, and I still haven't found one that I liked as much as this Wilson Beretta, this old one. Don't know how many rounds I have through this thing, but it's been very reliable for me. It's been a great gun. After that, I carried this pistol on duty because I was in an exposed capacity for the job I was working at the time. And this was my duty weapon for a very long time. I'd say about a year. And I shot some matches with it. I gave production class a try. Didn't like it very much. Maybe I'll go back to it someday. But I was shooting this weapon. If I was to go in a police academy today, I would probably want to carry this weapon right here. It's my favorite 9mm iron sight weapon that I own currently at this time, as far as my capabilities with it, the accuracy. It's really accurate, and it just kind of feeds everything and runs great for me. I've heard guys complain about Berettas, but then some really great shooters made Berettas real popular. Like Ben Stoger is one that comes to mind. He's the first guy I saw like winning world championships with a Beretta, which is amazing. So loved this weapon. This was my introduction into the double single action game. From there, I started getting more into competition shooting, and a new class came out. And that class was carry optics. So I was really close friends with Bevan Grams from Grams Engineering. And Bevan Grams had a Dr. iron sight on top of his open gun as far back as I can remember. This would be like early 2000s, before dots were ever even a thing. And I'm not saying I'm the first guy with a dot on a Glock, but I'm saying I'm the first guy I knew with a dot on a Glock. I saw him do that and I was like, hey man, I'm carrying this Glock 26 and this Glock 17 at the time. I'd love to put one of those dots on there because I don't do well with short sight radiuses. I never have. And the 26 was just a gun I always had a hard time being accurate with. And once you threw that dot on there, things changed. So I had he put a doctor sight on a 17 and a 26 for me. And I had those for a while and I carried them. I have some friends that deployed overseas with their Glock 19s with dots on them. Back then, they were two of the first guys that I knew. And I ended up giving that gun to a friend of mine named Adrian Chavez, who owns and runs Salient Firearms. Back then, he was working with Taryn Butler, and that's how I met him. And then he started putting RMRs on there and whatnot. So that was a problem, but I was used to shooting a dot on a pistol. I got it. Like I understood the slide-mounted optic. So when carry optics came out, I was like, ooh, all right. And kind of in that time frame, I met a good friend of mine named Gabe and another guy named Mike Pannone, who you guys have seen on this channel before. We've done a couple videos with him, and he's become one of my best friends. He's the war Yoda. He's like the big brother I never wanted, and a mentor to me for sure, especially in these later years in life after getting married. He really helped me with a lot of things personally, but also a mentor shooting as well. And I wanted to get in the carry optic game, and Gabe had one of these right here. This is the CZ Shadow 2 with a Leupold Delta Point Pro sight on it. This is I forgot what dot this was. It's not the big huge dot, but it's not the little 1 MOA dot. I think it's like 2 MOA, something around that. I don't think there's ever been a weapon outside of my original 2011 I put more rounds through. Literally over 100,000 rounds I have purchased and shot through this weapon. I practiced my tail off back then, and this weapon really helped me grow as a shooter. And it is a double single action gun, but there's no decocker in it. There is a safety right here, and it's an ambidextrous safety, but I don't really use it ever. I do ride my thumb up here like I would in 1911, but for the most part, to decock it, you just put your finger right here, pull the trigger, and then roll your finger out. The way Pannone does it, he actually does it with his thumb. He puts his thumb here, pulls the trigger, and rolls the thumb out. I just do my index finger because it's nice and quick. And then I'm going double action into this unbelievable, very nice, lightweight single action. I don't know if you guys can see this here, but this is the travel's very small, and then this amazing wall, crisp trigger pull, and I shot the tar out of this gun. It's a bone stock Shadow 2. Nothing else has been done to it. They have a lot of great stuff. The only two companies I can recommend are CZ Custom, number one. Like they're kind of they're the ones really doing it right in a lot of people's opinion, but I hear great things about Cajun Custom as well, and they do have some trigger options and things like that. For me, the trigger's just been great, and it gets better. Like the more and more I shoot this gun, the better this trigger gets. One problem I had, if you ever look me up on Practice Score, you'll see I shot Area 2, and I was doing great until the chrono time came, and my gun was 1.5 ounces overweight, which is a massive bummer. And I didn't even know weight was a thing, but there was a weight limit there. I didn't know about it. That's my own fault. And a lot of people were like, "Oh, you should protest it. It's a stock gun, etc., etc." It's a factory gun with a dot on it. That was the class, but it was a tad bit overweight. It could have been the grips I have on here. I do have the Loke, L-O-K, palm swell grips on here. It's got a nice little palm swell. It really gives me a lot of purchase room here with my little puppy dog hands. And these Loke grips, I don't know if you can see, they're very, very rough. But I was a tad bit overweight. They ended up bumping me up into open class, which really bummed me out because I was doing good. I was doing really good, especially for my class. So that was a big bummer. At that, I met one of the guys from CZ Custom, and I sent it to him, and he lightened the slide for me. So he put this small slide cut in there, and that brought the weight of the gun down below the weight limit that they had. Nowadays, they don't even have a weight limit. The weight limit has like gone up a ton, probably because a lot of big sponsors have started making some very heavy guns, like 6 Hour. But I love this gun. I can't remember having a malfunction with this gun. I shot the tar out of it with a competition load 9mm that I was getting from a friend of mine who's a loader, and then I was buying Fiocchi 115 grain as practice ammo from another friend who got it for very cheap. So I was able to buy lots of ammo. Back then I was training at least twice a week. I was going to my private range that I can go to and then shooting a match on the weekend. So I was putting a lot of rounds through this thing. I was getting to practice with all my friends, and Maggie Reese became a big practice partner of mine, who's the widow of Mike Voigt, and she's a very good friend of mine, and she lived down the street. So she would come out, and so I just got a lot of time behind this gun. This gun has never, ever broke down on me. I've replaced nothing in it, none of the parts. Now I know there's parts to replace. And if you want to ask somebody about that, you can ask the guys at CZ Custom or message Mike Pannone on his Instagram. He knows everything there is to know about this Shadow 2. But I've had nothing go wrong with it. I don't want anybody to touch it. I've been like, hey, let us do this too. Nope, don't. Give me my gun back. The magazines just work, unlike most 2011s. But I love this gun. I love it. I've thought about getting an iron sight slide for it. More to come on that later. But this was my second double action pistol that I bought. And this was kind of my big dive into double action. And right after that, I became close friends with Mike Pannone. And he gifted me this weapon right here. This is a CZ75 Compact. I believe it's called PCR. It's the version with the decocker. So it has a decocker on the left side of the weapon. So it's just a fixed iron sight with a fiber optic front sight. I'm not a tritium guy. I don't like night sights. I like fiber optics. And I absolutely fell in love with this gun. For me, it looks like a James Bond gun. It's like bombed. Fell in love with this weapon. Carried this weapon for about 4 years straight. This is just the gun that was on me at all times. It uses the same magazines as the Shadow 2, which was great because I had tons of Shadow 2 mags. Mike probably gave me like 30 mags for the weapon. And then I bought some mags for competition as well. Had Taryn Butler do base pads to them, and I used Graham's Engineering spring and followers, and all those mags got his spring and followers and Taryn's base pads. But so it was great to have the same mags. It carries great. It's a Glock 19 size gun. Same thing. The trigger on this is fantastic. Just this nice smooth double action, and then that single action is just slight out and then just hit a wall and it breaks. This trigger might actually be better than the Shadow 2. It's really great. No idea how many thousands of rounds Pannone had through this gun before he gave it to me. It was his main carry gun for a long time. It meant a lot to me to get it from him. It's got his nice little logo on the grips right there. And love carrying this gun. Still carry this gun a lot. I carry the tar out of this gun. Especially when I don't want a dot on my gun, which I'll show you kind of my primary carry gun now, or two of my primary carry guns. But carried this for a while. Then I got to where I really wanted a light rail on the gun, and I really wanted a dot on the gun. So again, I hit up Mike Pannone, and he gave me this gun as a gift again. And this has become my kind of do everything primary carry gun. I carry this gun exposed. If I was a police officer, I would carry this gun. If I was in the military, I would want to carry this gun. I know I probably couldn't, but I would want to. But this is the PO7. The PO7. Made by CZ. And it's got Mike's, I don't know if you can see it here detail-wise, but it's got Mike's little logo right there, laser etched into it. It currently has an Aimpoint Acro 2 on it. I had an Acro 1 on here right when they came out. I got the Acro 1. I got this weapon. Mike gave me 2 slides for the weapon, and I had one of the slides cut by CZ Custom for the Acro. I never had a problem with the Acro 1. A lot of guys would always complain about battery life and all this trash, but like, I'm one of those guys, I change batteries in my stuff a lot. Back then, this was a gun I worked with every single day. I carried it on me every day. I'm not carrying if my battery lasts a year. I'm not that lazy. I change my batteries on a monthly basis in all my work weapons. That's including my rifles, my 2 rifles I work with, as well as this pistol. And even if I wasn't using them, I change the batteries. It's just something that I do. Batteries are cheap. Amazon, what's up? The Acro 2 I fought, I was like, no, man, I got this Acro. It's dope. And it was all beat up because I'd been in some fights and things like that with it. So it had gotten kind of roughed up a little bit and kind of had some love to it. But getting the Acro 2, it's better. It's awesome. I love that it uses a standard 2032 battery. The adjustments for brightness on the side, it's just really, really an awesome dot. So carried this gun for a very long time, finished off my career, retired carrying this gun. This is still the gun I carry today if I'm going somewhere and I think I might get in a gunfight. This is a weapon that I feel I can be offensive with, not defensive, offensive. If I'm with my daughter, something like that, I don't want to be defensive. I don't want to be offensive. I want to be defensive. And I'll carry different things when I'm with her, which I'll show you coming up here. But this is still my primary carry gun. It's the gun I carry with me every day. It carries tons of ammo. I believe it's a 16-round mag. And it's that perfect Glock 19 size for me. And it's that double single action. I'll kind of show you this trigger pull here. That's the double action. A little bit stiffer. And then this is the single action, which is fantastic. This gun is, the trigger in this weapon is done by Cajun Gunworks. If you reach out to Cajun and tell them you want a trigger on a PO9 or a PO7 like Mike Pannone, he will know exactly what you're talking about and he'll put that in there for you. So this already had it in it when Mike gave me the weapon and it was just kind of done. It's a polymer gun. It just runs. It just runs and runs and runs. Same thing with all my CZs. They just work. They just always work. The magazines work. It's like I don't have to do anything to these things. They're so great. It's such a great weapon. So this is my primary and probably definitely my most used and carried weapon that probably I've ever owned. I have it now in a Black Arch holster. This is the Black Arch holster. I took off their clip and I put the clip from the Haley Strategic G-Code holster because I really like this clip here. And it's just a single clip. It's Kydex on the outside, and then on the inside is this nice piece of cushy little padding. I always hated these holsters before. I really feel like Black Arch hit the nail on the head with this holster. And I have a holster for not just the 75, but this gun as well. And it just lives in this. I did have to do some dremeling here, you can probably see, to be able to fit the Acro in the holster, but now the retention is awesome. I never do a mag caddy or anything like that. I've got a little too much extra man skin in the front to do a mag caddy, but I won't just wear this at the 1 or 2 o'clock. I'll wear this at the 4 or 5 o'clock as well, sort of behind the hip. And it's kind of my one and done holster. This lives on me, usually on my body. Sometimes it's in my fanny pack. If I'm going somewhere I can't carry a weapon, it gets taken out of the fanny pack and locked in the truck. So this is my one and done. My most recent double action, and the last one we'll talk about today, is this little guy. This was my dream gun for a very long time. This is the Walther PPK, and the special thing about this one is it's made in West Germany. This is a very old Walther PPK. My father has had this gun for a very long time. I'm a massive James Bond fan. Love the James Bond movies, all the old ones. And this is the gun of James Bond. It is in .380. Not my favorite caliber to carry, but I heard a pretty hard dude say to another guy one time, like, you know, it was like, oh, you don't want to carry .22, like, and the guy was like, go stand over there, let me shoot you with the .22 and see what happens. Tell me if you like it. It's better than nothing. It's a nice small gun. I don't really carry small revolvers with me anymore, which I used to. I can throw this in a pair of shorts, going to the gym, wherever. This gun gets carried probably, I'd say 50-60% of the time I'm carrying this weapon, especially when I'm with my daughter. I really like carrying this gun. I can shoot this gun very well. It's been extremely reliable for me. I've had no problems with it so far. I shoot Hornady American ammunition in it. I believe it's called American Handgunner is the name of the ammo. And I did my research on .380 ammo, and that was what a lot of people said was the best performing ammo in .380. And I love this gun. I love this gun so much. The sights kind of suck on it. It's just, you know, iron sights right here. No cool night sights, nothing like that. It's just, it's my favorite gun I own still to this day. I have a whole nice custom set of leather for it. So when I wear a suit out with my wife or whatnot, going to some of her fancy lawyer events, I usually have the Walther on, and I got a matching little mag pouch with the flashlight holder. Yeah. So this gun, this trigger pull is horrendous. It's so bad. You have to have this. I'm still pulling. That's your double action. It's so nasty, especially after picking up these CZs. But then when it fires, it's got a pretty nice little single action. It's great. The single action is quite nice. That first double action, though, is, I mean, it's got to be 12, 15 pound trigger pull. I hear there's things you can do to it. I don't know. Maybe someday I will. Probably won't. I've actually, you know, so shooting Mike Pannone's mech with this, I was about 40% below what I would be at with my Shadow 2. With the P07, I'm about 15% below what I would be at. So I know my capabilities aren't amazing with this, but I feel pretty comfortable shooting it. I like shooting it. It is a defensive weapon to me. It's not an offensive weapon where I'm going to, you know, actively try to go seek out an active shooter with a rifle or something like that. But, you know, the best gun you have is the one that's always on you. And I really love carrying this gun. It's very comfortable to carry. The double action on it, I'll show you that. You cock back, you hit this down to decock it, and then you have to flip this forward to watch the trigger here to engage the trigger. So that's the decocker on this. Pull this down, bink, flip this forward, boop, and you're ready to go, ready to shoot. If you want to put the gun on safe, you can by doing this, and that makes the gun safe. But I still just run it like this. I don't want to have to defeat that safety if I'm drawing, and the inherent safety of this insane double action trigger, especially this really heavy one, is what I'm comfortable with personally. So those are my weapons. Is double action right for you?
What's up, dude?
Mike Pannone, welcome to my YouTube channel.
Hey, what's up, man?
All right, so I'm doing a video right now on double action pistols, and I just went through my history with double action pistol, but I hit this question in my YouTube, and I don't really know how to answer it. Is double action right for me? If somebody were to walk up to you and ask you that question, what would you say?
I would say there are a couple different elements to that. I think double action can be good for anyone. Now, the application of it is what's important. So if you're going to carry a gun, let's say you're going to carry a concealed weapon, right? The beauty and the benefit of a double action pistol is that it's got that long first trigger pull, that double action trigger pull, like a revolver. So it's the level of energy required to discharge the gun is its own inherent safety. I mean, there's no safety on a revolver for a reason, because the long deliberate trigger pull makes it intuitively safe. It takes a lot to make the gun go off. And I think people that have concerns about carrying a striker fired gun because there's, theoretically no safety, even though we know there are several safeties on even striker fired guns, they're not comfortable with that, and they're not comfortable carrying a manual safety gun like a 1911 or a 2011 because they're worried about, either accidentally bumping the safety off while they're carrying it, or not deactivating the safety when they draw the gun. They have concerns about that. So they want a simple design, but they want it to be inherently as safe as it can possibly be made. I think double actions are great for that. I mean, I for years carried a double single gun, and it's a great platform to carry because of that, because it's very simple and yet it still is extraordinarily safe. I mean, so the only requirement is that you have to learn, you have to train a little bit on it to manage it. You have to learn to obviously transition from double to single in your first two shots, and then you also have to pattern into your behavior as soon as you dismount the pistol. So you draw it and present it, you're shooting as you bring the gun, and you need to be decocking it at the same time. So like I always say, you initiate decocking the pistol, it's like a millisecond before you withdraw the gun from full presentation. And so that small motion of your thumb to the decocking lever tells your body to bring the gun back in. So, that's the only thing that you really need to focus on. And that's what I trained, I don't know how many hundreds of people in the Air Marshal program that came off of striker fired guns onto double single guns. And that was really the only thing we had to be concerned about. The double action first shot people got through relatively easily. And with modern guns, if you get a nice trigger job on it, double actions are really smooth. CZ's got really smooth doubles. So,
yeah, kind of like the safety on a single action gun, right? Like the decocker, kind of the same thing.
It's exactly the same thing. You initiate motion of your thumb to the safety on a 1911. So you're on top of the safety as you're firing. You go to bring the gun back in. Your thumb goes off to the side and drops down beneath it. That's what tells your body to bring the gun in. As you're bringing the gun back in, you're pushing up with your thumb, placing it on safe. So that smallest, most critical motion initiates the largest, least critical motion, which is to pull the gun back in. So that small motion is dropping the thumb below the safety, which is a cue that you're going to put it on safe, and that is also the cue for you to withdraw the gun from the mount. It's exactly the same as with an AR or any rifle that's got a manual, say, a SCAR or, an M4 or whatever. You initiate movement towards the selector to safe the gun, and that's what tells you to dismount the gun. The methodology is identical. So the methodology for double single guns and for single action guns and for any modern sporting rifle that has a thumb actuated manual safety, literally it's all the same.
So last but not least, and this is an all-time favorite, but your all-time favorite carry double action gun, double action only, and your all-time favorite for like tactical use, like if you were going to be like a patrol police officer.
I'm a huge fan, like a carry as a carry gun. I really like PO7. The PO7s that I have, the double actions are so smooth. The gun is light. It's insanely reliable and durable and accurate, and it holds a ton of bullets. So I mean, as a double single gun, that to me is like, I think that's kind of that's the choice one because of the weight. The polymer frame is super light, but it still handles recoil really well. Are you talking on a over like a cop kind of gun? Are you talking a double single gun?
Yeah, a double single gun for like a police officer, like in a duty rig, kind of your full size choice.
Yeah, as a full size gun, again, the P series guns, the CZP series guns are really light. They're really durable. They're really reliable. They have a ton of bullets. It's a 19 round flush fit mag. So if you're a copper, you're running out of a duty rig, you've got 19 plus 1. You've got 20 rounds in the gun. The gun's insanely reliable, and it's light. The big thing I look at is that it is light. SIGs are good guns, too. Double single SIGs are really good guns. I just look at weight. I look at weight, and I've got I don't know how many, probably close to 100,000 rounds, probably actually more than 100,000 rounds on the P series guns, in the P09. So all told, between P07 and P09, because I was with CZ for 7 years, I've got easily 250,000 rounds through that P series guns. And the 09 shoots really good, and it's super light. So if you're carrying it all day long, it's not a giant boat anchor like most double single guns are metal frame guns. Most of them are aluminum frame like this, the SIGs. The CZ is a polymer frame, but it shoots just as soft as a metal frame gun. And again, it's got a ton of bullets in it.
Rad. Thank you so much, Mike, for that insight. And I'll talk to you soon, buddy. Love you, man.
All right, brother. Love you too, man. Be good.
See ya. There you have it. The War Yoda, Mike Pannone, and his thoughts on double single action. So is it right for you? I don't know. That's for you to decide. It's your responsibility to do the research and decide what works best for you. Still to this day, 90% of the people that call me and ask me, hi, I want to buy a pistol. What should I buy? I'm usually like, what are you going to do with it? I just want one gun. I usually tell them, just go buy a Glock 19. Because if you ever want to carry it someday, it's great for that. If you want to get into the shooting sports and you want to stick with Glock or you want to go somewhere else, then we have that conversation. But for me, a double action gun, it's kind of all I want now. It really is. I haven't purchased a new gun. Wow. I wasn't married. I wasn't in my 40s. I was in my 30s. Like, I've lived at like 5 houses since I purchased myself a new weapon. But it's because I love these guns. They work for me. I've tried all the new stuff out. It's just not for me. These work. And all of these firearms I showed you today are great examples of a double single action gun. Do your own research. It's your responsibility to know and understand what you're carrying and be competent with it. So I will say, like what Mike just said, if you do get it, do the training, spend the time working the decocker, and put your underwear hours in getting those double action trigger pulls. So that's the video, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. Please consider liking, subscribing, sharing the video. Tell me what you like down below. Just take a second. Tell me what you're into. You know, you're like, if double actions suck, tell me. I don't care. Most of you guys just complain about music most of the time. But there's no music in this one. So I hope you enjoyed. God bless you guys. See you on the next one.